This is the age-old question. You've seen it everywhere.
This is the one that everyone's wondering about.
Is water wet? We're not holding these questions back. We're coming out with the one that is the most difficult to answer. Is water wet? So there's two arguments. The one argument is water is wet because it's water.
Yes.
The argument that water is not wet is because, the thought process is, water makes the things that it is on wet. For example, it makes a towel wet. It makes the floor wet. Because the floor isn't wet until there's water on it. But then the floor gets wet, but the water is already water.
Right. I like to look at this like if something smells.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have something that smells,
This is good because I've never thought about it like this before.
it smells.
Mhm.
It's always going to smell.
Dirty socks.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking more of like a.
Oh, you're thinking like an
a
odor.
cologne.
Okay,
Or
yeah,
something like that.
It has
the
a
cologne
smell.
smells.
Okay,
If I put it onto something else, it
Mhm.
also now smells.
true.
So water,
Right.
it's wet.
Yeah.
And I put it onto something else, and now this is wet too.
The thing is also wet because
Yes.
water is already wet.
Water is wet. That's how I feel.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I've honestly
What
not.
was it? What was your?
My answer would be that water was wet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think water is wet
Why?
because if water it's a liquid,
Correct.
and most likely whatever you put it on. Well, but then it's hard to say because if you put it like, say you put a towel, like a wash rag in a bucket,
Okay.
and you pull it out,
Mhm.
the soap rag the rag is gonna absorb some of the water.
Yeah.
You put like a marble in there, and then you pull it out.
The marble will still be wet.
The marble surface will still be wet,
though. Not for long,
not for long,
but it's still wet.
but it's still wet because
As
there's
long as
water
there's
on
water on it. It
But-
is wet.
it. Right, because water is wet.
Yes. We both.
You're
agree.
assuming.
We both agree.
I
but there's
assume.
probably people at home.
Right.
Like, Are
Exactly.
you kidding me? Water's not wet. I watched a couple of YouTube video arguments.
Yeah.
None of the ones that are like water isn't wet made sense.
I feel like I've seen some really good ones though on Twitter somewhere. Like somewhere I was like,
They sound really good, but it's just people wordsmithing. I think
Oh.
like it's a stretch, buddy.
yeah, probably.
If I have some like stinky poop
Uh-huh.
and I put the stinky poop onto something else,
Right.
it stinks.
Yeah.
If
Fair
I,
enough.
If I have water, and I would argue all liquids are
Mm-hmm.
wet.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble like not saying okay, water is wet, but so are all liquids.
all liquid is wet. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Like if even like an oil,
Right.
which isn't technically a liquid, right? Or it is.
Well,
it's like viscous.
Whatever.
What's the word? For it? There's a scientific.
I don't know. I'm
but
not
even,
a scientist.
Even if you get a bunch of oil on you,
Right.
you feel wet.
you wear wet, yeah, or gasoline, or
All of that.
Yeah,
All of that.
all of it. I think it's wet. Liquids are wet.
Liquids are wet. You heard it here first.
That's right. And if not first, this is the authoritative voice.